Okay, it should be recording. Go ahead.
All right, good morning, everyone. This training is on upper level merit training, full title 7 to above scale, or as Jim would say, those who haven't died yet.
Right.
Next slide. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the elements of a successful program, performance expectations, program summary narrative, program review dossier, themes and goals, important dates, and then questions. I want to focus today, since most of you or all of you have been through, this isn't your first rodeo, focusing on those things that have changed this year and those things that are really relevant for going up for this level of promotion. So first part is the elements of a successful program. What you want to do is you want to develop a well-written story that demonstrates the academic knows where they are headed. This is all about trajectory. And even though you're far along in your career, there's still a trajectory. You're still moving forward always. Increasing your role as a leader, as a change agent as you move on in your career, increasing your focus, providing more mentorship, etc. Can you go back a second, Kim? Intended outcomes or condition changes are identified, and these result from a continual assessment of needs and priorities throughout your career. Okay, Kim. So the story you're developing talks about the progress to date during the review period, okay? So scholarly activities at a very aggregated level, but from the perspective of how those activities are making progress toward intended outcomes. So this isn't about just listing activities. We all do activities, but it's the end result of those activities in a very concise fashion that's easily understood by those within your discipline and outside your discipline. So the impacts need to be identified, supporting scholarship and creativity is conveyed. So basically you're saying, I've had this effect, this impact on my clientele, on my audience, and here's the evidence that I have. You're going to present evidence of professional competency, as we all have through our careers. Commitment to continuous improvement, and commitment to diversity, inclusion, and equity. These are all very familiar. A successful dossier will emphasize productive collaborations, both internal and external. None of us work in a vacuum. We want to demonstrate that we are mentoring our colleagues, since all of you are at a senior level in the organization. And we want to hear what you've been doing both formally as a mentor and also informally. Efforts to strengthen the UC&R network. So this is your contributions, not specifically to your focus area, but to the organization as a whole, your peers. Multi-county and or multi-program assignments. It's extremely important that you emphasize the region and the extent of which your program extends, and your collaborators and effectiveness in that. Leadership roles is extremely important at this level. You need to show, as you progress through the ranks within UC&R, there is an expectation that you take on more leadership roles. Those leadership roles have greater impact, higher level positions, committees and organizations that go beyond a local level to a more regional and national level. Advocacy efforts, we want to see from everyone that in addition to doing your core job here with the organization, that you're making efforts at promoting the organization and always communicating to our stakeholders and policymakers out there in the state what we are doing and how we're changing people's lives for the better. Outreaching to clientele using new technologies such as social media and websites. This also includes video. These are all very important because as a clientele develops over time, they become accustomed to using new technologies and communicating and getting their information in different fashions. And we need to be aware of that. Excuse me. It goes beyond just developing a fact sheet and sticking it in your county office, and that's the extent of your outreach. Next slide, please. So this slide here talks about the peer review committee perspective, and many of you have served on the peer review committee or currently serve on it. Presentation of your dossier is extremely important because you want the reviewer to actually enjoy reading your dossier and not fall asleep while they're reading it. It needs to be easily understood by people in other programs. As you know, on the peer review committee, everyone reads everyone's dossier, and not necessarily these individuals are going to be in your discipline area or have similar programs as you. So you want to be able to make it easily understood by your entire audience to make it clear the types of impacts you have in your program. Each reviewer has a unique perspective. They come from a different lens. Keep in mind that the perspective of those reading your PR. And to some extent, doing your homework, knowing who's on the peer review committee and knowing their backgrounds, and they've been colleagues of yours. Many of them have been colleagues of yours for a long time. Some you may not know very well, but learn a bit about them and understanding what they're looking for. Reviewers may not be familiar. Can you flip it back for a second? Reviewers may not be familiar with you or your specific program. Just remember that. Thanks, Kim. This slide here talks about a few common mistakes, and many of you have seen these. Hopefully not done them, but sometimes maybe. A summary paragraph summarizes your accomplishments. It doesn't just say see table. So you want to make sure you have an actual summary of your accomplishments. Not correctly categorizing university service and public service. This is something I heard, sitting on peer review committee for 2 years. Members of the peer review committee sometimes struggling with this. So you want to, there are very clear rules, and we'll talk about them in a little bit, about what is considered university and what's considered public service. So you want to make sure you categorize them correctly. Total funding should be the total amount of the grant you received and not how much of that total you are responsible for. So make sure you get that right. Do not list every single phone call and every date, every blog or tweet. Ensure activities that are important are listed. So you want to remember, when you put activities in your dossier, that's not the most important thing. The activities are there to support your statements of impact. So you're saying to your audience, I've had this impact on my audience, my clientele, on the people in the state. And here's the evidence that I'm having that. And so if the activity is not directly supportive of that impact, then its importance in the dossier. It's much less important to just list something for the sake of listing it because you've done it. Neglecting to identify your role in narratives and tables. It's extremely important to all throughout your dossier, anytime you have collaborators on a project, indicate what your role is so people on the peer review committee don't have to question and try to guess what your role was in a particular effort. So clearly identify what your role was. Were you the coordinator? Were you the leader? Were you a participant? Did you provide the coffee? Whatever that role was. Neglecting to update your position description. This is something many of the academics here in A&R have not done. So we need to be really sure you update your position description, because it's the position description that the reviewers are basing their evaluation of you. It's not anything else. It's not what you are doing or you think you're doing if it's not on the position description, because that's the only document they have to base the review. So make sure you at least take a look at it. If it doesn't look like it's correctly describing what you're doing today, then just make an addendum, update it, so the peer review committee has the most up-to-date version.
Okay, so I'm just going to briefly talk about Project Board and the Danvers X retrieval. So there's not much difference in Project Board from last year to this year. You should still be entering all of your information as you did last year. You can still download the information under the Review and Compile download in Project Board, and then it will go to your desktop as that editable Word document. You will need to please pay attention to the new narrative structure, and we'll be talking about that a little later, but you'll want to make sure that you're manipulating that data that comes from Project Board so that it meets the new kind of new narrative format that we are pushing for this year. You might have to go into Danvers to get some historical data because you will only have 2 years of data into Project Board. But if you have issues with the Danvers system, talk to Chris Hansen. He can help you retrieve that information. If you have any issues with Project Board, you can contact Kit or me. So just reminders, Danvers is open for historical. You go to that data recap. Yeah, there you go, everything that I've just said. And then Intrafolio will be opening up, I hope sometime mid-October, and then you will receive an email from them, from Intrafolio, and it will say that you're up for whatever particular action you are up for, and then you can go right into it and upload it, kind of how the old system was. So you'll see the various, here's links, your PD link, your bibliography link, et cetera, et cetera. It'll all be laid out there like the old system, and then you'll go ahead and upload it. Once all of the components are complete, it then moves on to your supervisor review, and you are kind of locked out just like the old system was.
Hey, Kim, I have a question.
Sure.
How does Project Board work for my sabbatical year, since I didn't do anything in Ventura really?
Mm-hmm. So there's probably not a whole lot of information you will be entering then, especially under the activities. But if you've done some professional competence activities or some service, which we know you have, you will be entering those into Project Board. And then what Intrafolio will have for you is there will be a place for you to enter your sabbatical plan and your report if it's done. I think though don't you have a year or so to complete the sabbatic report? So you may not have that at some point or for this current upload.
I don't think that's my understanding. I think the sabbatical report has to go with the PR.
Well, I know your sabbatic plan, if you're the final report is not completed, I would have to check on policy. I thought you had a year from the date you came back, but I'd have to double check on that. But you would
Okay.
upload your sabbatical plan into
All right.
Interfolio that would go along with your PR.
Got it. Thank you.
And Jim, you also had a question in the chat box. You said advocacy has not been required of non-CDs in the past. I don't think, question mark. Now that particular statement in that slide, I just directly copied from last year's training. Kim, do you know?
Sorry, I can't see the chat.
Okay, he's asking, go back a couple slides. Let's see.
Well, I think, Mark, part of the problem is that performance expectations and
Here.
a successful dossier emphasizes, it's like, where's the line between what's required and what people want to see? You know what I'm saying? So obviously, advocacy roles are often in the hands of the county director. And even then, it's sometimes unclear what our advocacy role should be. So I kind of raised the question because I think advocacy efforts are not always well defined for ANR. I know I've spoken with county directors who wish they could talk to legislators, but they feel like they don't have permission to do that. And so, I see this as a very murky area, advocacy. And it's not always clear what we're advocating for the university. I mean, it's very gray.
Well, we're trying to clarify that the best we can. And I know Ann Magaro, we've had several trainings. We have trainings at the New CD Institute. So we're making every effort to have people understand what type of advocacy they need to be doing and how to do it and what they can and cannot do. I think we're getting there. It's not going to happen overnight. You can go back, Kim, where we were. Okay, so these are performance expectations for full Title VII, 8, and 9. We want to see exceptional contributions in your major program area, resulting in significant benefits to the people of California, the nation, and contributing favorably to the prestige of UC and UCCE. Now, of course, this is somewhat subjective, but all of you kind of understand as you progress through your career, your contributions are going to get more significant because as you become more influential and more of an authority in your field. And of course, our major target is the people of California. Sometimes your program might be such it goes national. And this is, again, everyone has a different opinion on it. I think for some programs, you can be highly effective and impactful in a small region, not necessarily national or international. Evidence of continuing superior performance and professional stature in your field as evidenced by the candidate's recognition and significant contributions to the field or profession. And I think all of you understand that. Service on committees within your discipline, both state, regional, national, being asked to participate on various committees involving policy decisions, being asked to be an editor on a journal or associate editor on a journal or to organize meetings. These are all recognition in your field. I think most of you understand that. At this level, full Title VII and beyond, of course the bar is a little bit higher. A little more on the leadership side as opposed to participant side. The next one is pure leadership, originality, and ability to effectively collaborate with others. At this time in your career, you should have very strong networks of collaborators and peers you work with, and you should be, to be more effective through those collaborations, and you should be able to show more leadership with those groups as opposed to a participant in those groups. Use the top step in the salary scale for this series. Use of the top step in the salary scale for this series shall be restricted to those for whom there is, in at least 3 of the criteria mentioned above, documented evidence of exceptional or outstanding achievement or unusual qualifications in terms of education and experience. There should be strong evidence of a wide scope of recognition and highly meritorious service. So you should be recognized, not just for a very specific area, but recognized for your leadership on university committees, your leadership in your disciplinary committees, so that scope needs to be wider. At least 3 years of service in the preceding step are expected before advancement to the next full title step. So that's a pretty straightforward rule. Must demonstrate well-balanced program with outstanding performance in all 4 academic criteria areas. So you know what the 4 academic criteria areas are. So you have to demonstrate a well-balanced program, and you have to show outstanding performance in all of those. It's just what is expected for someone at this level. Must demonstrate leadership roles and distinctive impacts. Again, it's beating the leadership drum again. Always, that is a key thing that the reviewers are going to be looking for. When it is feasible, such documentation by sources outside the University of California should include written testimony to an evaluation of an individual's achievement. If you can show, you were written up by a national organization, for example, or given an award, a fellow in an organization, a society, things like that, or letters from individuals outside of UC in these other organizations, both governmental and professional societies, indicating your achievements within that particular realm. Use of the top step in the salary scale for this series shall be restricted to those for whom there is, in at least 3 of the criteria mentioned above, documented evidence. Isn't that something I already had? I swear I just read that.
Well, so we've moved to the above scale performance.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is above scale performance. My fault. This is full tile above scale performance. So that's the same as I just read. You have to show that in 3 of the criteria mentioned above, you have exceptional or outstanding achievement or unusual qualifications in terms of education experience. Except on rare cases, advancement will not occur in less than 4 years at step 9. Okay. Accelerations, you all know what accelerations are. An acceleration requires exceptional achievement in at least 1 criteria, and you have to identify the driver. Acceleration requires greater than normal productivity in all criteria for your rank and step. So even if you have 1 criteria that's exceptional and you have a driver, you cannot have just meeting expectations in the other criteria. They have to all be greater than normal productivity in all of the other 3 areas. Highlight activities that you believe warrant special attention. Do not just repeat descriptions you provide in other sections. So in your acceleration letter, you want to make it very clear and make it stand out. What are those activities that the reviewer needs to be looking at when they make the decision on your acceleration? Focus only on the period since the last review, justifying the acceleration request. So one thing that's changed a bit this year is the program summary narrative. Academics emphasize in the program summary narrative and articulate clear themes focused on achieving one or more impacts. Recommended length for the narrative is 2 to 6 pages. The narrative length not to exceed 10 pages. Now the AAC Personnel Committee over the last 2 months has gone through and made revisions on the ebook, and Kim is getting those in place. Are they up and running yet?
Not yet, hopefully by the end of this week.
Okay, so by the end of the week, you'll be able to go in and look at the ebook and you'll see it's significantly shorter. It's been rearranged a bit by the Personnel Committee and tried in efforts to make it more clear, less stressful, and put more emphasis on the program summary narrative as how the means of you communicating your impacts. Newly developed guidelines emphasize sharing impact, both measured, anticipated, and inferred. And so we're changing the message to continuously move from just listing activities to what are your impacts. And when you think about impacts and you're writing impacts, this is not something you do after the fact. It's much easier to, and you get a much better impact if you think about your impacts before you even begin working on a project. And then you use that as your goal in your project to hopefully at the end achieve those impacts. The summary narrative should include an acceleration statement if applicable, and or a statement of special circumstances for those academics that have a non-traditional appointment, academics with less than 1 FTE, or those academics with administrative responsibilities. Supporting documentation. There's a new section integrating the traditional tables, professional competences, university and public service, publications, applied research and creative activities, and extension activities. So the section is supporting those impacts you put in your summary narrative. Academics may choose to use the traditional table format. So what was decided working with the Personnel Committee is that, especially important for those of you at this training, if you've been doing it one way in a traditional table format and all your materials are in that format, we're not saying you can't use it. You can choose to use that, and that's perfectly fine. They ultimately will decide how to present their activities to best support the program summary narrative, okay? So what we're doing is we're giving academics the option to use this new integrated method. An academic might choose to submit an annotated list or an enhanced CV containing similar information reported in the tables. So if an academic, especially a young academic that has not already invested a lot of time in tables, they may just choose to submit an enhanced CV. Again, this is just to support your claims for impact or your trajectory for impact that you present in your narrative. A summary of publication examples and/or publications themselves may be included or hyperlinked to the online publication in support of the program summary narrative, okay? The structure of the narrative. You want to describe major themes and goals of your programs and your accomplishments in meeting last year's goals. You want to refer to your tables while writing this section. You do not need to duplicate the information included in these tables. Organize your program descriptions by themes and consider including the following components when describing your activities under each theme. I guess I didn't include those. I apologize. I will get that in this version. Dossier components we're going to jump to now. Professional competence and professional activity. Organize items by theme, subject matter, goals, or other organization at the discretion of the academic. Divide the activities into two sections. Professional development and training. These are trainings, work groups, professional society meetings. And the second one is evidence of professional competence. This is presenting at professional science meetings, invited to give presentations, awards, inducted into being a fellow of a society, etc. Again, this is just showing that your peers are recognizing your work. University service. University service may occur at the local, division, state, national, or international level. You want to provide details, your contribution, and the benefits of these services. Examples of potential university service activities include serving on a university committee, chairing a work group, providing leadership to program teams, or advocacy efforts. And then highlight your leadership efforts or your role as a leader. That's critical at this level of advancement. Public service should involve activities and events which the academic uses their professional expertise to benefit groups or efforts outside of the university. Highlight your leadership efforts and activities and detail the benefits to the community. Examples may include serving on external boards or councils, participating in community events, and leadership of non-university collaborative groups. It doesn't include things like talking about motorcycles at your local Veterans of Foreign Wars unit. So this is related to your expertise in your professional area. Confidential letters of evaluation. There are some changes here. They are only required for above scale. For higher full title cases, letters showing collaboration with out-of-state researchers or industry contacts demonstrate growth and influence of the program and beyond California. Academics will enter the name and contact information for those they are requesting letters from an Interfolio. Interfolio will send out the request for letters of evaluations after February 1st.
Mark, this is Kim. I just want to clarify. Sorry, I should have clarified that second bullet. It was in the past required of all step 7 and above merits for letters. That was changed, as Mark said, for now only the above scale cases. So that second bullet really should say not for higher full title cases, but for only those seeking above scale, the letters should show collaboration, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll make that correction on the slide before we post it.
Thanks, Kim.
Can I ask?
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ida.
The first part only required for above scale. What does that mean?
So that means for those full title advisors that are going from step 9 to above scale.
From step 9. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That are currently at step 9, moving to above scale.
Okay. Good. Okay. Thank you.
So is it still possible to request letters if you're not above scale, or is it something we're supposed to avoid now?
Well, you can I mean, it's just optional. If you feel the letters will help support your dossier. Yeah.
Yeah, because those kinds of things can help determine the reach of your program, particularly beyond California.
Absolutely. I think the requirement is just what's changed.
Okay.
And then this is some miscellaneous other documents, letters of publication acceptance, if applicable, sabbatical leave plan and the report from that sabbatical, if applicable, work plans or performance improvement plans, again, if applicable, and definitions of acronyms, if applicable. So I want to talk a little bit about themes and goals. This is the goal setting part, and there's a little bit of changes here. So we've gone from the submitting your merit part, but you also have to submit your goals, and since that has changed, and we don't really have a training specifically on this, we included it here. So we're now asking all our academics in the fall to discuss the goals with the supervisor. And at that time, reach an understanding on what themes what their themes are and how they fit into your story. Illustrate how the themes can focus on your work, and contribute to your merit and performance narrative. You may use existing A&R terms such as strategic initiatives, program team names, public values, condition changes, etc. in those themes. Present your goals by themes. So when you put and I'll show you what it looks like in a second. Provide a statement addressing anticipated barriers or obstacles in accomplishing your goals. So the next slide is actually right out of the new ebook. And so include your goals, goals you intend to accomplish in the upcoming year, your anticipated collaborators, anticipated outcomes and impacts. You might want to organize your goals according to the themes you're going to use in your program review dossier. This is in an effort to keep everything consistent throughout, so it just saves a lot of time of reorganizing. Remember to include goals addressing the advancement criteria for your title series. So in the table, there's a spot here for your themes. And so each theme, you're going to put a name for that theme. And the name for that theme, again, like the last slide said, can include language reflecting our condition changes within the organization, program teams' names, etc. But the themes are very broad, but tell the reviewer the area of work you have under that area. So the white line that falls underneath the theme is where you put the specific goals under that theme. And I'm eventually going to share mine with everyone. I'm literally, hopefully today, going to have mine done. But underneath the goals, for the goals, you can have in some cases one goal. Sometimes I have as many as 3 goals. It's just depending on the nature of what you're working on. Those goals need to be specific in the sense you want to have them, a very measurable outcome from it, something where when you look at them a year from now, you're going to be able to say pretty easily, did I achieve that goal? Did I not achieve that goal? So you don't want them being abstract or vague. In the next column over, you're going to put your anticipated collaborators. And I would also in this include your role in those collaborations if you know it. And then in the final column, anticipated outcomes and impacts. So assuming everything went well and you achieved your goal, what kind of outcome would you like to see from that? And what is the impact from that? So, so this has been changed just a little bit. It's not a whole lot different than the way it was. The main differences here is emphasizing the themes and the organization of the table. And in the last column, it includes impacts, where it used to say anticipated outcomes. It's now anticipated outcomes and impacts. This is also extracted right from the new ebook. This is the important date you want to remember for this particular year. So you're always entering the data in the project board. By September 16th, the supervisor submits intended actions. You've already done that. Program review dossier is uploaded to Interfolio by February 1st. This is always the same. Clientele and colleague letters of evaluation are due by March 13th. Supervisor's letter of evaluations are due by March 20th. The ad hoc review committee's evaluations will be due by March 31st. And then the peer review committee's evaluation will be done in April and May, like it traditionally is done. And then in June, the decisions will be made by the AVP, Wendy, on the actions. So that's about it. If you're not going to have time today to get your questions in, you think of something later, just contact Kim or myself directly. All forms, guidelines, slides, examples, and policy information can be found on the AHR website. And like Kim and I said earlier, the revised ebook should be up and running and by the end of the week. So I would take a look at that over the weekend if you're bored and you want to read something. So any additional questions that you have?
Mark, yesterday in our academic staff conference, someone was mentioning to me that there is not going to be any ad hoc committee. It's only the peer review committee. Was there any information that come out regarding that? I haven't seen anything that says. The only thing I know is there was even a call for ad hoc committee service request. And some of my advisors, I don't know where they got it. They were saying that there is not going to be any ad hoc committee anymore.
Kim, can you pull up the language, the new language on the ad hoc committees?
Okay, so let me stop sharing this. But to answer Ita, I sent out a request for peer review committee volunteers. I haven't sent out the one for ad hoc committee request yet. There will actually still be ad hoc committees this year. There is policy that guides us in that, not only the APM, but the A&R handbook. And so it's not a change that the PC or the PRC could make in time to get it to leadership to make the recommendation to change anything. So there will still be ad hoc committees.
This year?
This year, yes. So I'm just pulling up the ebook draft right this second, and I'll share it with you as soon as I find the
Yeah,
ad
and
hoc
Stephen
section.
says the Personnel Committee has recommended the elimination of ad hoc review committees. However, they are required in the A&R Administrative Policy Manual handbook. So we have to have ad hoc reviews this year until the policy can or cannot be, will or will not be changed.
Yeah, there are some promotions going up this year so I wanted to make sure that they is the exact process that it's going to go through. Their PR is going to go through.
So we have this one paragraph that will still be in the ebook regarding ad hoc committees and how they're appointed and that sort of thing.
Okay. The ebook, is it already out yet? No.
No, we are working on finalizing it. It is pretty close to being done. We're just waiting for Wendy's last review, and then it will be posted.
Okay. All right. That answers my question. Okay. Thank you.
Mark, on the step 9 performance expectations, is that a new piece of language for this year, or was that already in place before? Because I remember evaluating step 9 packages, but I don't remember seeing that language.
You're talking about those couple of slides?
There was a slide that said something about performance being spectacular. It didn't use that word, in 3 areas or something like that. It was in your slide.
Yeah, those slides were the same language as last year.
It was a different slide. Yeah, the top step. This language right here, use of the top step in the salary scale for at least 3 of the criteria mentioned above.
Yeah, I took.
I just wondered where that came from.
Yeah.
That seems different this year.
No, I didn't.
And what does that mean, mentioned above? Is that in a previous slide, or what criteria actually is that referring to?
It's the criteria for the advisor title. So the 4 criteria,
Okay.
the extension,
Okay.
the research, the service, and the competence. And that language actually comes out of APM. I'm trying to find which APM it is right now for you, Jim.
Yeah, because I don't remember seeing that when I was having to evaluate packages last year. So I just thought this might be something new.
Yeah, APM 220 talks about advancement to, this is referred to the above scale. Hold on, let me drop down a paragraph.
Kim, I came late in this presentation. Can I get the whole PowerPoint, or are you going to put it somewhere where I can access it?
I will post the slides as well as the recording to the AHR website when we're done.
Okay.
So, Kim, perhaps you can just get back to me on that. I don't need to delay the call here.
I will.
Okay. Other questions for clarification or comments? Well, like Kim said, this is being recorded and it will be posted on the AHR website along with the PowerPoint. And again, if you have any questions, contact myself or Kim. I appreciate your participation in this. I hope there was something useful for you. And again, the revised ebook will be out hopefully by the end of the week, so take a look at that.
Well, thank you, Mark, for putting this on, and I look forward to seeing your goals.
Yeah. Yeah, I should be done hopefully soon, today or tomorrow. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.